Hello everyone, my name is Maddie and this is my Marvel comic breakdown. Welcome back to my channel. I'm ready to take you on another whirlwind ride through the fascinating universe of comics. We're on episode 8. Can you believe it? If you've been here before, then you already know the drill. If you're new, first off, welcome to the journey. We get together here to unpack the most thrilling, thought-provoking, and sometimes just plain wild storylines from the world of comic books. Today, we're diving into 20 more captivating tales. Whether you're here for the superheroes, the villains, the underdogs, the occasional zombie apocalypse, I've got something for you. So grab a seat, lay back, and let's get our geek on. Remember to smash that like button if you enjoy the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's dive right into the heart of the action. The next 4 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 16. They were all released in December of 1940. The next comic is titled Dinosaurs at Large. It was written by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby and illustrated by Jack Kirby. So this crazy comic tale revolves around none other than Barney Bailey, a rich showman with a seriously wild idea. Now Bailey stumbles upon some dinosaur eggs, and not just any eggs. These babies are in mint condition. Bailey, with dollar signs in his eyes, decides to hatch these eggs and put on a show to end all shows, totally disregarding the idea that these prehistoric battles could escape. A random lightning storm strikes, because why not? This so mild weather cracks open the dino cages, freeing these giant lizards to run wild in the city. This mayhem catches the eye of our hero, the Vision, who decides to take on dino wrangling duty. While he's trying to handle this Jurassic problem with TNT, our dino maniac Bailey gets some muscle, hiring mobsters to try and capture his investments alive. But they fail, leaving Bailey ranting and raving about his precious dinos, which leads to him being on the menu for his very own T-Rex. With no more interference, Vision finishes off the last of the dinos before heading back to his own dimension. In terms of analysis, this comic is a classic tale of man versus nature and the inherent unpredictability of trying to control wild forces for personal gain. Bailey's hubris and blindness to the potential danger of his actions is a typical downfall in many characters throughout literature and serves as a cautionary tale of the possible repercussions of tampering with nature. Also, it highlights the Vision's role as a protector, consistently intervening in situations of chaos or danger, reflecting his ever-watchful nature. The next comic is titled The Rochell Murder Mystery. It was written by Ray Gill and illustrated by Bob Oskner. Up next, we've got the story of Terry Vance and Deadline Dawson, who decide to embark on a seemingly harmless fishing trip with Scoop O'Brien. Out in the deep blue, they find a hat floating in the water, which leads them to the deserted yacht of Fred Rochell. On board, they discover Rochell's personalized cigarette case, cigarette butts with his initials, and a bloody footprint. All of these clues lead Terry to believe that Rochell met a rather grisly end. Venturing to Rochell's home, Terry tries to return the cigarette case, hoping to fish out some information, but gets the door literally slammed in his face by Fred's brother. Soon after, Janice, Fred's niece, meets Terry and spills the beans about her uncle's gambling problem. She mentions the Swan Club, an infamous hub for illegal gambling, as one of Fred's usual haunts. Seeing this as a potential lead, Terry and Janice decide to dive deeper. Meanwhile, back at the docks, authorities discover Fred Rochell's lifeless body in the water, and the cause of death is ruled as drowning. Terry tells Deadline and Scoop to meet him at the club that night. He and Janice go undercover at the Swan Club, where Terry intentionally racks up debt, landing him face to face with the club's boss, a mobster named Pinelli. With no way to pay, Terry sends Janice for backup, and Janice recruits Deadline, Dr. Watson, and Scoop, who storm the club and save Terry from Pinelli's goons. The authorities show up, and Terry wraps up the case by pointing out that Pinelli's shoe matches the bloody footprint from the yacht, pinning Fred Rochell's murder on him. We see classic elements of a detective fiction, a mysterious murder, a trail of clues, and a daring undercover operation. Terry's analytical skills and bravery stand out as he puts himself in danger to solve the case. This narrative also highlights the destructive impact of gambling, serving as a cautionary tale, while illustrating the power of teamwork and quick thinking. The next comic is titled Karl Schwab's Lightning War. It was written by Paul Gustafson and Ray Gill and illustrated by Paul Gustafson. Our tale begins with Karl Schwab, who's fresh out of prison after a decade-long sentence for plotting against the US government. It's not long before New York City is hit by a wave of bizarre robberies. Entire streets are electrified and men in rubber suits wreak havoc on the helpless citizens caught in the crossfire. Unsurprisingly, this spree of chaos catches the eye of our superhero, the Angel, who decides to dig deeper. Donning the guise of an old man, the Angel tails a group of men down to the murky labyrinth labyrinth of the city's sewers. It is there that he uncovers Karl Schwab. Yeah, the same guy that's fresh out of jail is the puppet master behind the attacks. Schwab's goal is to disrupt American cities as part of a nefarious Nazi scheme. He's testing a colossal dynamo with plans to let it loose on New York in full force. Then there's a showdown between the Angel and Schwab. Schwab is able to get away and chains the Angel to the ceiling. The Angel, trapped, starts to watch as those men in rubber start to wreak havoc on New York City. Then he realizes that the chain isn't welded and he's able to pull the links apart. The Angel, now free, starts battling Schwab again. In a twist of fate, the Angel triggers an overload in the power supply, causing it to explode. Schwab meets his end not at the hands of our hero, but by a flying piece of shrapnel from his own machine. This narrative is a compelling examination of redemption and relapse. Schwab's release from prison and his immediate return to destructive ways demonstrates the hold that extremist ideologies have over individuals. The Angel's quick thinking and resourcefulness save the day, showing us the importance of heroism in the face of a crisis. This story underscores the theme that sometimes the seeds of our own destruction is sown by our own hands. The next comic is titled Showdown with Rajah Sarput. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Ben Thompson. This is diving back into the heart of the Belgian Congo, where our adventurer ka-zar has just returned from his American escapade. But there's no rest for the wicked. ka-zar finds out that his homeland has been under threat from a notorious poacher, Rajah Sarput. Now, you know ka-zar isn't about to let that slide. ka-zar squares up against Sarput in his temple, but it's a tough fight. Sarput's got a bulletproof vest that makes ka-zar's knife about as useful as a butter knife against steel. When Sarput pulls out his gun, things look bleak for ka-zar, but here comes Pindar, the eagle, swooping in just in time to distract Sarput and let ka-zar make a getaway. Not one to accept defeat, ka-zar goes on the offensive that night. He calls upon his animal allies from the jungle, and they storm Sarput's place. In the ensuing chaos, Rajah the elephant goes full stampede, crushing Sarput in the process. ka-zar, the pyromaniac that he is, decides to end things with a bang, setting Sarput's home on fire. As the crew roars, ka-zar and his crew retreat to safety, watching as the symbol of their enemy is reduced to ashes. We see the theme of perseverance in ka-zar's character, even when facing a technologically superior opponent. He doesn't back down. His kinship with the animal kingdom is also reinforced. They come to his aid when called upon, proving that respect and understanding between man and nature can yield powerful alliances. Lastly, the narrative uses the destruction of Sarput's home as a powerful symbol, signifying the end of his reign of terror over the Congo. The next 6 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 17. They were all released in January 1941. The next comic is titled Fighting Side by Side. It was written and illustrated by Karl Burgos and Bill Everett. We find our heroes, the Human Torch and the Submariner, in a puzzling situation as they try to decipher the cryptic warning about an impending invasion given by their adversary, Pinhead. After a brief scuffle, the Submariner reveals a threat from a surprise attack from Japan, who are supposedly constructing a tunnel from Japan to Alaska. The game is afoot. Armed with a special diving helmet, the duo plunges into the ocean to begin their investigation. They encounter and defeat a German U-boat, obtaining valuable intel on the tunnel's location, a volcanic island near Alaska. Engaging with the Japanese forces at the site, they come out on top. However, the wall of the tunnel breaches, filling it with volatile volcanic gases. With the Submariner unconscious, the Human Torch makes a daring move, igniting the gas to obliterate the tunnel. The resulting blast wipes out the Japanese soldiers, and the Torch takes Namor back to the surface to recover. Meanwhile, the Submariner rallies his army and directs them to destroy any ongoing operations in the Bering Strait and Siberia. As he dons a diving helmet and ventures after the Human Torch, the latter discovers Japanese forces using captured prisoners to dig the tunnel. Amidst the battle, an accidental flame from the torch detonates a cache of explosives, knocking out the Submariner and making him an easy target to capture. Luckily, the Human Torch swoops in to rescue his friend. They confront a Nazi operative in charge of the operation, who, rather than being captured, floods the tunnel, taking his own life. Escaping by melting their way to the surface, the Torch and Namor find themselves in Alaska. After briefing the governor about the thwarted Axis invasion plot, they are commended for their heroic efforts. We can observe the elements of teamwork and strategy. Even though Human Torch and Submariner initially have a fight, they eventually unite to tackle a bigger threat. The story also illustrates the classic theme of sacrifice, showing the Torch's willingness to risk his life for the greater good. Finally, the plot serves as a critique of the dehumanization of war, particularly in its portrayal of the prisoners forced to dig the tunnel. This conveys a message about the importance of maintaining humanity and empathy even in times of conflict. The next comic is titled More the Mighty. It was written and illustrated by Steve Dahlman. From his eerie stronghold on Ghoul Mountain, the sorcerer known as More the Mighty hatches a wicked plan to conquer the world. Utilizing his magic, he transforms his pet cat into a gigantic monster. Accompanied by his minions, including a ferocious ape-man named Zabu, More collects a significant amount of explosive powder, setting his sights on railroads and governmental infrastructure. As dawn breaks, More kicks off his destructive campaign, detonating several government buildings and unleashing his enormous feline on the city. The FBI quickly reaches out to Dr. Philo Zog, requesting the aid of his robotic creation, Electro. In response, Zog directs Electro into the fray, where it successfully eliminates the gigantic cat. However, when Zog pits Electro against Zabu, the robot meets its demise at the talons of two enormous birds summoned by Moore. Zog attempts to intercept Moore's plane, but his efforts are met with a bullet, causing him to crash. Miraculously surviving the crash, Zog hurriedly rushes to the remnants of Electro and painstakingly restores his mechanical defender. Fully functional once again, Electro is dispatched back into the battlefield. It swiftly neutralizes Zabu, strangles Moore's gigantic birds, and forces Moore to crash his plane, thus putting an end to his malevolent scheme. We can note the theme of determination embodied by Dr. Zog. Even after facing a near-death experience and witnessing the destruction of his creation, he doesn't back down. Instead, he persistently repairs Electro, highlighting the value of perseverance in the face of adversity. This story also touches upon the concept of responsibility. When called upon, Dr. Zog does not hesitate to deploy Electro for the greater good, demonstrating his commitment to uphold peace and security. Lastly, the narrative illustrates the classic battle between good and evil, with good eventually triumphing, serving as a reminder that no matter how formidable the enemy, justice prevails in the end. The next story is titled Thin Ice. It was written by Ray Gill and has a little illustration by Bob Osner. In this prose story, Terry Vance, an inventive and clever boy, has been invited by his friend Deadline Dawson to enjoy some ice skating. Terry gladly agrees to the outing, bringing his pet monkey sidekick, Dr. Watson, and a remote-controlled plane he has built for himself. Upon arrival at the ice rink, Terry encounters a sour-faced skating attendant who chastises him about his plane. Deciding to remove himself from the friction, Terry opts to test his new plane on a nearby hill, while Dawson takes to the ice. As Dawson skates, he spots two girls in danger of plunging into the ice. In a frantic attempt to save them, he tries to alert the grumpy skating attendant, but their help arrives too late as the girls fall through the ice. In a state of panic, Dawson and the attendant are unsure of how to rescue the girls until Dawson remembers Terry and his remote-controlled plane. He whistles sharply, catching Terry's attention up on the hill. Terry sends his remote-controlled plane gliding down toward the icy water with Dr. Watson aboard. Through some quick thinking, he uses Morse code to communicate with Dawson, instructing him to attach a rope to the plane. Dawson and the attendant manage to tie a rope around the plane, which then they use to pull the girls to safety. Once the girls are safe and warmed up, the skating attendant, humbled by the incident, apologizes to Terry for his earlier harsh demeanor. He promises to be more vigilant in the future, acknowledging the value of Terry's ingenuity. This story displays themes of quick thinking, innovation, and teamwork. Terry, using his inventiveness and problem-solving skills, is the key player in rescuing the girls, reflecting the importance of resourcefulness and critical thinking in emergency situations. Furthermore, the transformation of the gruff skating attendant shows how adverse events can lead to self-realization and personal growth. The story also emphasizes the significance of cooperation, as the successful rescue operation involves the collective efforts of Terry, Dawson, and the attendant. The next comic is titled War Against the Werewolf. It was written by Paul Gustafson and Ray Gill and illustrated by Paul Gustafson. This is a chilling story of betrayal, transformation, and supernatural mystery. Dr. Roberts, after a long, life-altering expedition in Calcutta, India, returns home with his aide Singa, but his mental state is a little shook, if you know what I mean. His daughter Jean is super excited, totally expecting her dude, Robert Harrison, to have come home with her dad. But Robert throws a wrench in those plans, saying Harrison's gonna be chilling in India for another year or so, totally breaking her heart. But Harrison isn't just chilling in India. No, he's dealing with a serious glowdown, like turning into a werewolf sort of glowdown, thanks to some strange occurrence. Roberts, being the future father-in-law, sneaks him back into the US, promising to find a cure. When Roberts himself can't come up with a solution, he hits up his buddy Dr. Lin. Dr. Lin, taking a look at this situation, is like, no, I can't fix this, but I know someone who can. Who's this mystery savior? None other than our boy, the Angel. Dr. Lin sets Harrison free, hoping that his werewolf-induced rampages will catch the Angel's attention. And boy, do they. The Angel not only tracks Harrison down, but also easily takes him down in a battle. Using his detective prowess, he discovers Harrison's identity and learns that the poor dude's condition is because of some rare Indian herbs. But just as he's about to start the healing process, Singa, the once loyal aide, pulls a massive plot twist, transforming into a werewolf himself. But you know, our boy, the Angel, isn't going to let that slide. He takes down Singa, quite literally, sending him plummeting to his death from a window. With that out of the way, the Angel manages to cure Robert, then dips out. But just as he's leaving, Dr. Lin steps up, asking for his help with something else. So this story is an interesting exploration of the lengths one might go to protect family and secrets. It's a study in the supernatural wrapped in an action-packed mystery, made even more fascinating by the involvement of a hero, the Angel, who represents hope in a otherwise bleak situation. The next comic is titled Burk and the Bomber. It was written by Ray Gill and illustrated by Bob Oster. This is about a good old-fashioned whodunit featuring our favorite brainiac, Terry Vance, and his buddy Deadline Dawson. These two are hot on the case of a murdered police officer taken out by a bomb. First things first, Terry and Dawson channel their inner mythbusters to figure out how this lethal bomb was put together. They decide to play 20 questions with the dude the police has in custody. But when they roll up to a cell, the guy tries to pull a fast one on them with a bomb that's as real as a $3 bill. Next up on their detective road trip is the suspect's old work haunt. The guard there tries to shut them down, but when he finds out that Dawson's a reporter, he's like, okay, fine, just don't touch anything. While they're poking around, Terry notices that the guard's hands have chemical stains all over them. That's not fishy at all. They learn from an employee that the guard's been salty since an explosion messed him up a few years ago. After dropping Dawson off, Terry goes into full-on stalker mode on the guard and sees him getting nabbed by some shady characters. Following them, Terry reaches a house just in time to find the guard shot and left for dead. And here comes the plot twist. As always, the guard was forced to make the bomb for the bad guys to plant in a movie theater. That's seriously messed up. Terry gets his superhero on, alerting the authorities and getting the theater evacuated, while he and Dr. Watson go on a scavenger hunt for the bomb. But guess what they find? Just junk and a confession note from the guard. This guy didn't want to do the mobster's dirty work anymore, so he made a fake bomb. His confession is the ticket to getting Burk out of jail and the mobsters behind bars. This story has some cool elements of suspense, mystery, and unexpected heroism, showcasing the determination of Terry and Dawson to solve the case. The plot explores the theme of being caught between a rock and a hard place, and how desperation can lead individuals to make risky but necessary decisions. The next comic is titled Hoodlums Incorporated. It was written and illustrated by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. This is a wild story featuring none other than our spectral hero, the Vision, squaring up against Vince Garone. For context, Garone is a former bootlegger from the Prohibition era who's decided, hey, let's try another illegal hustle. Garone buys the Ajax Trucking Company and goes full mafia boss mode on his competition. If you're not Team Garone, then your truck might have a little accident. Yeah, this dude is playing for keeps. But after a series of truck crashes that's more Fast and Furious than Transformers, the Vision decides it's time to step in and serve up some justice, superhero style. Next on Garone's hit list is a trucker, Hank Steele, who's got the guts to say no to Garone's offer he can't refuse. When Garone's goons try to take out Steele mid-delivery, the Vision swoops in and saves the day. Steele, inspired, rallies his fellow truckers for a raid on Garone's company. But Garone gets wind of the attack and tries to ghost before the cops arrive. Little does he know, the Vision is on his tail. In a freaky twist, the Vision serves up one of his trademark illusions, scaring Garone so bad he drives off a cliff. Talk about poetic justice for a guy who was all about making people crash. This narrative really throws light on the Vision's abilities and his commitment to justice, not to mention Garone's ruthless tactics to dominate his industry. This story brings up things of standing up against oppression and the eventual downfall of those who resort to violence and intimidation for personal gain. The next comic is titled The Legacy of John Rand. It was written and illustrated by Ben Thompson. So a friend of John Rand named Winston rolls into the Congo looking for ka-zar, who he believes might be John's son, David. Unfortunately, their meetup is less of a welcome party and more of a plummeting over Zombo Falls party. But no worries, ka-zar swoops in for the save, and once they meet, Winston is convinced that ka-zar is David and spills the beans about a diamond mine David is said to inherit. But John's lawyer, Alec Wright, is the actual snake in the grass. He has forged the documents to make it look like he co-owns the mine, and plans to off ka-zar to get it all to himself. When Winston introduces Alec to ka-zar, Alec totally denies that ka-zar could be David. They agree to trek to the wreckage of the Rand family plane and the graves of ka-zar's parents to settle this mystery. But en route, they stop at a cabin for some shut-eye, and Alec seizes his chance. He locks Winston and ka-zar inside and sets the place ablaze. But our boy ka-zar isn't going out like that. He summons Rajah the elephant, who smashes the cabin wide open. Wright, now scared shitless, bolts till he hits a dead end, literally, at the edge of a cliff. While threatening ka-zar with a gun, he trips and falls off the cliff to his death. With Wright out of the picture, ka-zar inherits the mine and instructs Winston to channel all the mine profits to the War Relief Fund. This story beautifully showcases ka-zar's bravery, his close bond to the creatures in the jungle, and his refusal to be swayed by the lure of wealth. It's not just about the actions, but also about ka-zar's values. This story truly accentuates his heroism and his commitment to the greater good. The next three comics are in the Submariner Comics #1. They were all released in March 1941. The next comic is titled Deep Sea Blitzkrieg. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. The Nazis, always up to no good, are eyeing the undersea kingdom near the Antarctic Circle. They send a pack of submarines to rain terror on the underwater city. In this chaos, the Emperor is seemingly wiped out. The Submariner steps up, rallying his underwater crew to fight back with their whale and shark ships. I mean, who needs an aircraft carrier when you can have a fleet of biomechanical sea creatures? Namor baits the Nazi subs into a tight spot spot where his people are lying in wait. Though they manage to sink a bunch of enemy subs, the Nazis manage to snatch up the Submariner. The game of cat and mouse, or should I say shark and sub, doesn't end well for our hero. Locked up in a dry cabin, Namor starts to feel weak, but he's got a plan. He convinces the guard to let him soak up some water in the ballast tank. If not, he'll die, and that's a no-no for the Nazi boss man. The guard takes the bait, and Namor breaks free. He assaults the sub from the outside, sends it spiraling to the ocean floor, where it splits in two, taking out everyone on board. After the sub-aquatic drama, Namor heads home and helps his people rebuild their kingdom. This story perfectly encapsulates the Submariner's tenacity, strategic brilliance, and dedication to his people. It's not just about the underwater warfare, but also a testament to Namor's strength of character and resilience. The next comic is titled The Radium Robbery. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. So our story takes a dark turn when Namor's people start falling prey to a mysterious illness. But radium is the antidote. Recognizing the surface world might have this, Namor makes a splash in New York City, hoping to connect with his sometimes ally Betty Dean. But upon reaching Betty's apartment, he uncovers a shocking revelation. New York City's radium stash has just been swiped by some pesky Nazi spies. Namor's not having it. He finds out that the spies were last spotted around Central Park. Deciding to take a refreshing dip in the local zoo pool, he spots an open manhole. His curiosity piqued, he dives in for a closer look. Beneath the city, he stumbles upon a lost little boy. Warning him about the dangers, Namor sends him topside, but the kid struggles to open the manhole and instead triggers a floodgate, unleashing a torrent of water into the sewer. But fear not, our hero rescues the boy and directs him to crawl through a tunnel to check for the radium thieves. On reaching the other end, the boy discovers a hidden dock where the thieves are moving the radium onto a boat. He rushes back and spills the beans to Namor, who tells him to keep an eye on the thieves while he swoops in to confront them. Along the way, Namor hitches a ride on an ambulance, speeding to the scene. To his shock, he discovers the boy has been roughed up by the thugs and needs medical attention. The boy reveals that the radium is tucked away in lead containers. Following the boy's lead, Namor jumps into the water, gunning after the Nazis. But he's forced to pull the brakes when he realizes that they've dropped sea mines, posing a major risk to regular ship traffic. Once that rescue is handled, Namor catches up to the thieves who have met up with a Nazi U-boat. During the tussle, the radium box takes a plunge into the ocean and ends up in the belly of a shark. After disabling the U-boat, Namor chases down the shark and retrieves the radium box. Returning to the Nazi sub, Namor ensures that it meets its watery end. And with the triumphant declaration, "No one can defeat me," he jets back to Atlantis to cure his people. This story underscores Namor's determination, resourcefulness, and unyielding commitment to his people. It's not just an action-packed underwater adventure, but also a tale of heroism, resilience, and empathy. The next comic is titled The House of Horror. It was written and illustrated by Paul Gustafsson. This dives into the mysteries of Sabatino Town with none other than the Angel himself. This place has been buzzing with some peculiar happenings at the ancient castle of Di Sabatino that even our hero couldn't ignore. The Angel is chilling at the Red Feather Inn when he stumbles upon a conversation between Jane Tavares, the new owner of the castle, Cuban tobacco tycoon Ricardo Amigos, and well-off adventurer Tex Carville. Jane's just inherited the castle, which Ricardo is keen on buying, but Jane's not budging. But here's where things get a little eerie. A zombie tries to take them out with a poison dart, but luckily the Angel saves the day. When Amigos fishes the dart out of the chair, he finds a note with the chilling mark of the laughing skull, signaling that they've been cursed. Meanwhile, the Angel tails the zombie, but before he can squeeze any info out of it, the creature offs itself with a poison dart. Sniffing something more than supernatural hocus pocus at play, our hero decides to scout the castle of De Sabatino himself, only to be caught and thrown into a dungeon by military police. But the Angel isn't in chains for too long. Tex breaks through the dungeon wall and frees him. They both agree it's time to figure out what's cooking at the castle. Battling their way in, they uncover a secret basement through a trapdoor, where they encounter another zombie. And here's the shocker. They discover that Amigos has been running a secret slave mine under the castle. The zombies are just a smokescreen to ward off people from the castle so he could buy it on the cheap. Spotting Jane as Amigos' captive, they free her and square off against the zombies. Noticing that the undead minions are controlled by drum beats, the Angel swiftly takes down the drummer, sending the zombies tumbling down a mine shaft. Amigos, in a desperate move, hurls a stick of TNT into the mine, but the Angel's quick reflexes save the day again. He tosses it back, triggering an explosion that takes out Amigos. The explosion, however, causes the mine to collapse, trapping the Angel and his comrades. With the oxygen dwindling, the Angel goes to work on the wall as the others pass out. Breaking free, Tex and Jane are revived to find the Angel gone, vanished into the night. This tale not only shows us the Angel's heroic valor, but also his analytical skills to uncover the truth beneath supernatural distractions. This narrative effectively blends mystery and action and suspense and horror elements to create an engaging superhero story. The narrative features engaging action sequences such as the confrontation with the zombies and Amigos' desperate use of TNT. The story ends on a suspenseful note with the Angel's mysterious disappearance, leaving the reader intrigued and anticipating the next installment. The next 4 comics are in the Human Torch number 4. They were all released in March of 1941. The next comic is titled The Mystery of the Disappearing Criminals. It was written by Karl Burgos and illustrated by Karl Burgos and Harry Saleh. This is a gripping tale of the Human Torch and Toro as they tackle the case of disappearing criminals. Upon the request of the police commissioner, the Human Torch swings by the station to dig into a strange case. Notorious criminals are vanishing from their usual spots and can't be traced. Just then, Toro barges in with news that his friend, Jimmy Wilson's father, fresh out of prison, has mysteriously disappeared after going to New York for a job. The duo jet off to Jimmy's house, only to witness a cop breaking the tragic news to Jimmy's family that his father is dead. Heading to the morgue to examine the body, they realize it's a case of murder, not just a random disappearance. Our flaming duo comes up with a daring plan. Toro will play the bad guy, engaging in illegal activities while the Torch appears to turn a blind eye. The situation escalates to the point where the police commissioner asks the Torch to step down. But the plan works. A crook approaches Toro, inviting him to join his untouchable gang of thieves. The Torch, keeping a watchful eye from the skies, follows Toro to a sinister old house. He torches his way in, only to find it deserted. Out of the blue, he is ambushed by a gangster who unexpectedly drops dead. The Torch uncovers a hidden radio transmitter which explodes, taking the entire house down. While this is happening, Toro is captured and flown overseas to be used as a pawn to manipulate the Torch. The Torch, aware of this, investigates the house's wreckage, finding a crucial clue. He cleverly tricks the goons into revealing their location via a radio transmitter. Upon finding the ship where Toro is held, the Torch lunges into action, only to get captured himself. He's held hostage until Toro ingeniously manages to free him. The Torch promptly takes down the ship's crew and sets his sights on the mastermind, a man known as Blackjack. In a final face-off, Blackjack hurls a vial of nitrogen at our fiery hero, dousing his flame and leaving him temporarily blinded. This narrative introduces us to a complex web of events that heightens the stakes for our heroes. The mysterious disappearances of the criminals offers an intriguing hook, setting the tone for a suspenseful plot. The emotional resonance comes with the death of Jimmy Wilson's father, which gives our heroes a personal motivation to solve the mystery. Toro's daring plan to infiltrate the gang by playing the villain and the Torch's supposed indifference displays their strategic prowess and dedication to solving the case, even if it risks their reputation. The twists keep coming with the ambush, the explosion, and Toro's capture, which ups the ante and presents our heroes with greater challenges to overcome. The use of a hidden radio transmitter in the Torch, tricking the goons to reveal their location, demonstrates the clever use of technology in the plot. The surprise capture of the Torch and the sudden appearance of the villain Blackjack keep the readers on edge. This narrative ends on a cliffhanger with the Torch temporarily losing his power and vision, leaving the readers eagerly waiting for the next part of the story. Overall, the narrative effectively combines suspense, action, personal stakes, clever tactics, and a formidable villain, resulting in an engaging storyline. The next comic is titled The Mystery of the Disappearing Criminals Part 2. It was written by Karl Burgos and illustrated by Karl Burgos and Harry Saleh. This is the concluding part of the thrilling story of the Human Torch and Toro. We're left off with our heroes in a challenging situation, with the villainous Blackjack managing to elude capture. The Human Torch gathers the ship's crew and embarks on their return to the US. Toro, puzzled, asks the Torch about the cause of Jimmy's father's murder. The Torch reveals the discovery of a tiny red hypodermic needle mark between the deceased fingers. As the duo settles back, Blackjack, from a concealed room on board, contacts his allies to bomb the ship and eliminate the Torch. Swiftly taken to the skies, the Torch intercepts and destroys the attacking planes. Amidst the chaos, Toro gets injured. Unable to flame on, he's saved by the Torch, who skillfully cauterizes his wounds. A threat looms on the horizon as several battleships approach, but relief washes over the Torch when they're revealed to be US ships, simply escorting them home. Blackjack uses the distraction to escape by jumping overboard. Back on US soil, Toro's mental state deteriorates, necessitating hospitalization. With Toro in safe hands, the Torch pursues the criminals responsible for the crisis, apprehending all but 2. Although Toro's recovery is progressing, the news of the 2 criminals still at large rouses his sense of duty. He seeks Jimmy's help in tracking down Blackjack and his henchman, Davis. The following day, Jimmy reveals a golden opportunity to capture Davis at an upcoming ball game. Toro, in a surprising twist, joins the game as a pitcher, throwing literal fireballs at the batters and Davis in the crowd. This unusual strategy leads to Davis's capture, and the Torch successfully extracts Blackjack's hideout location, 15 South Bay Street. Toro, exhausted, is sent back to the hospital while the Torch heads after Blackjack. A sudden crisis occurs back at the hospital. The incubators for the babies have malfunctioned. Toro, despite his weakened state, uses his flame to heat the incubators until the problem is solved. At the same time, an ambulance is dispatched to 15 South Bay Street, where the Torch is rounding up the remaining criminals. The climactic encounter with Blackjack sees the Torch manifesting a giant flaming hand that engulfs the villain, ending his reign of terror. The police arrive in time to apprehend the leftover criminals just as Toro shows up, riding the dispatched ambulance. Though Toro laments missing out on the action, the Torch insists he rests up for their next adventure. And that's how our blazing heroes save the day once again. This piece of narrative has got everything that makes comic books so addictive. High stakes, unexpected plot twists, heroic deeds, and more. It's a classic tale of good versus evil, with our heroes emerging victorious. It shows the strength and courage of the Human Torch and Turo, who, despite facing numerous challenges, never give up. Their ability to think on their feet, sacrifice, and teamwork are the key themes portrayed here. The story also highlights how even heroes have their vulnerabilities, making them more relatable to readers. Plus, the imaginative use of their powers, like using fire to cauterize wounds or heat incubators, adds a touch of realism to the fantasy. The next comic is titled The Serum Must Get Through. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. We're up north this time, in the icy wilderness of Alaska, where a mid-sized town is going through a real rough patch, dealing with a major flu outbreak. Medical workers are scrambling to get their hands on this new serum to combat the disease, so they ping Washington to airlift some ASAP. But a gnarly storm starts brewing, threatening to make the rescue mission a no-go. Enter our dude, the Submariner. He's asked to power through the stormy seas, swimming the serum in for the town. However, Mother Nature isn't playing nice, and the icy cold waters bring our Prince Namor down. In the meantime, planes combing the area for Namor are caught up in the storm. One crash lands close to him, shaking him out of his icy stupor and allowing him to save the pilot from becoming a popsicle. More planes land and our guys are rescued. Meanwhile, the town's having its own Titanic moment, with the colossal icebergs posing a serious threat. Namor quickly directs the planes back to the town to carry out a massive evacuation. As our undersea hero approaches the town, he spots a massive iceberg, goes "not on my watch," and blows it to smithereens. This triggers a fire, but Namor's quick on his fins and extinguishes it, only to realize the town's now in danger of flooding and frosty temps. Making a power move, he shatters the ice to reveal the city's gas supply, ignites it, warming up the town, melting the ice, and creating a path for him to deliver that much-needed serum to the hospital. This storyline showcases the versatility and resilience of Submariner in the face of a crisis. Not only does he battle the elements to deliver much-needed medical supplies, but he also strategically solves a multitude of problems threatening the town. The complex sequence of events also adds a sense of urgency and suspense that keeps us on our toes. The next comic is titled The Yellowshirts Turn Yellow. It was written by Ray Gill and illustrated by George Mandel. The head honcho of a radical group, the Yellowshirts, declares they've got enough firepower to topple the US government. And boom, they kickstart their sinister plan. Picture our man, Jeff Mace, strolling down the streets just vibing with his girl when, out of nowhere, a building implodes, disintegrating right in front of their eyes. No sooner does the dust settle than the members of the Yellowshirts swag onto the streets, firing at cops and declaring their reign of terror. Now Mace isn't gonna let that slide. Quick as the Flash, he morphs into the Patriot, diving headfirst into the chaos, putting the smackdown on the Yellowshirts, and then hightails it back to his news office. The Yellowshirts are now ruling the roost there, but the Patriot and his news crew aren't having it. They toss these usurpers out faster than you can say front page news. With the office secured, the Patriot goes all in, charging uptown to tackle the remaining Yellowshirts, facing them down in a good old-fashioned showdown. Spoiler alert, the Patriot reigns supreme. This storyline is a whirlwind, blending intense action and political undertones, taking us on a roller coaster ride with Jeff Mace, aka the Patriot. We see Mace going beyond his everyday reporter persona, transforming into the Patriot, embodying bravery, justice, and resilience. This storyline showcases how Patriot stands out as a symbol of resistance against subversive forces, fighting to restore peace and order. It's also a clever nod to the inherent risks of unchecked power and the importance of a free press in the face of subversive elements. The narrative captures the chaos of the Yellowshirts rebellion whilst balancing it with Patriot's unyielding resolve, giving us an action-packed scenario that keeps us glued to every frame. Also, it subtly highlights the power of unity when Patriot and his news crew work together to reclaim their space. The next two comics are from the Mystic Comics #1. They were both released in January 1940. The next comic is titled Introducing Flexo the Rubber Man. It was written by Will Harr and illustrated by Jack Bender and Elmer Cecile Stoner. Introducing Josh and Joel Williams, the masterminds behind the innovative super robot Flexo. Picture Flexo as this colossal, super durable, and flexible rubber-bodied giant, built to fly, take on the baddies, and make the world a better place. The story starts when the Williams bros snag a sample of Radium for some high-octane experiments. But hey, this isn't a smooth ride. The boys are lured into a classic damsel in distress trap, all set up to swipe the precious radium right from under their noses. But these tech geniuses don't just have brains, they've got the muscle, aka Flexo. Tied up and out of options, our heroes summon Flexo with a remote control, turning the tables on their captors real quick. Flexo swoops in, rescues the brothers, but the bad guys play it cool, refusing to spill any beans. Switching gears, our dynamic duo thinks, hey, how hard can it be to trace radium? Enter their radium detector, tracking the stolen goods right to the lab of the notorious Dr. Murdo. But Dr. M isn't going down without a fight. He tries to wipe out the brothers and Flexo with his own army of robots, bots. But Flexo, he crushes these bots like it's a walk in the park. In a final twist, Murdo's goons try to shoot Flexo, only to puncture his body and, surprise surprise, unleash a cloud of knockout gas, sending them all to dreamland. In the end, the victorious Williams brothers command Flexo to trash Murdo's dangerous tech and hand him over to the cops. This narrative is a brilliant blend of sci-fi and action, centering around the concept of a super robot, Flexo. It's a testament to the potential of technology, personified through the Williams brothers, who use their creation to uphold justice and thwart evil. The storyline isn't without its twists and turns, a classic damsel in distress trap, a high-stakes heist, a villain with his own robot army, and a thrilling showdown. These elements keep the readers on edge, ensuring a gripping narrative from start to finish. Additionally, the character of Flexo is intriguing, a machine with a protective nature towards its creators, exhibiting traits of loyalty and courage, thereby adding emotional depth to this narrative. Plus, the surprise twist with the knockout gas in Flexo's body adds a whole new layer of strategy and unpredictability, keeping readers engaged and looking forward to the next page. The 160th comic in the series is titled The Origin of the Blue Blaze. It was written and illustrated by Harry Douglas. Let's rewind to 1852, where Dr. King is tinkering away on a mind-blowing new invention, the blue flame. And this thing is no ordinary flame. It's got the power to resurrect dead mice, making them stronger than ever. Just as he's showing this to his son Spencer, who's all set for a costume party, things get crazy. Out of nowhere, a wild storm hits town, setting off the blue flame and causing mass devastation. Spencer, along with many others, are caught in the explosion and assumed dead. With the rush to bury the victim, Spencer is laid to rest, still decked out in his costume. Plot twist time. Spencer isn't dead. He's just chilling in a suspended animated state, and thanks to the dramatic rays, he's becoming tougher and badder. He senses a rising evil and decides it's time for action. Fast forward to the 1940s, Spencer, now known as the Blue Blaze, wakes up to a pair of grave robbers trying to loot his grave. When they try to shoot him, they find out the hard way that he's now bulletproof. Spooked, they spill the beans about their boss, Professor Molesky, chilling at the Green Lamp Inn. Blue Blaze tracks down the professor and gets transported to a massive underground lair. There, Molesky drops a chilling revelation. He's planning to rule the world by resurrecting the bones of the dead into zombies that he can control. After unveiling his master plan, he tries to shoot Blue Blaze, but our hero is unscathed. In a twist of events, Blue Blaze hurls Molesky against his machines, causing a massive explosion that takes out the evil scientist and all his undead creations. This tale, set in the backdrop of the 19th century, blends elements of science fiction, horror, and superhero genres to create a riveting narrative. The concept of the blue flame as a resurrection tool adds a mystical yet scientific dimension to the story. The transformation of Spencer from a normal young man to the Blue Blaze is an exciting plot device. His character gains invulnerability and an increased sense of justice, classic superhero traits that make him a compelling protagonist. The introduction of the Professor Molesky as the antagonist, with his macabre plan of world domination using zombies, amps up the conflict. His encounter with Blue Blaze, revealing his plan and subsequently being defeated, rounds off the narrative with a satisfying conclusion. Overall, this story utilizes the themes of resurrection, good versus evil, and the unintended consequences of scientific innovation to create an engaging tale that leaves readers hooked from start to finish. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of another epic journey through the pages of comic book history. From the cold wastelands of Alaska to the rising undead, we've covered some ground today. We've seen some heroes rise, villains fall, and some mind-boggling plot twists. I hope you all had as much fun exploring these stories as I did breaking them down for you. Remember, these are more than just stories. They're the blueprint of our dreams, hopes, and sometimes our fears. So whether you're a comic book connoisseur or a casual fan, always remember that there is a story out there waiting to resonate with you. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Let's spread the love for comic books far and wide. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next adventure. Until next time, stay curious, keep reading, and remember, every page turn is a new adventure waiting to unfold. Catch you all in the next one.